My name's Billy Kay. I'm a screever and braidcaster, and I was born and brought up in the heart of the Burns country in Ayrshire. I stayed in a wee town cried Galston, that's in the Irvine Valley, along with Derville and Yamulls. These were a mixture of Webster communities in Langside. They made claith, but then in the 19th century, Galston became a mining town, and both my grandfathers were miners in Ayrshire and in Fife. What we spark 99% of the time among ourselves was Scots. I was the last of the generation afore television came in. I was about 10 or 11 year old afore television was broadcast into folks' living rooms for the first time. So what we spark was the language of Burns, and we took Burns as an exemplar because Burns was a leaving tradition. At family get-togethers there would be pop songs 1 minute, and then the next minute there would be a Burns song. My sister and my father and all his brothers were all good Burns singers, so at New Year and family get-togethers, Burns was part of the culture. And because we kent Burns had created international iconic songs like Auld Lang Syne, we had a brilliant world-class poet that screeved brilliant material in our lead, in our language. So that gave us a pride in the language. I was never brought up hearing ocht against Scots. In the contrary, my mother and father had sayings like them wi' a good Scots tongue in their head are fit to gain o'er the world. So I was brought up with an identity with Scots and an awareness of the literature and the songs, mainly through Burns, but through other folk like local connections, like Alan Ramsay and Robert Tannahill. Wrote songs like Loudon's Bonnie Woods and Braes or The Lass of Patie's Mill that were sung in the house at family get-togethers in Kent. These were for other folk appeared for Burns. 99% of the time I say we spoke Scots, and that extended to every area of life. For example, football was very important growing up in Galston, and talking to, especially to a Catalan audience, you might be interested to ken that one of the pioneer football teams in Barcelona in the 1880s and early 1890s was a team of Websters from my Irvine Valley, from Yamulls and Derville, that formed a team called Escocese FC, and these were all been Scots-speaking boys, and they were among the pioneers of football in Catalonia. And when the Catalan League began to be formed and muckle clubs like FC Barcelona were formed, FC Barcelona stole some of the players for Escocese FC, and you have early boys from Yamulls and Derville playing for Barcelona. I mentioned that because the vocabulary for football was all in Scots. I was quite fast, so I would juke down the wing. A big back would breach into me and try and get the ball off me, but I'd juke past him. I'd put over a great body, a big centre for it, a big hullock at centre for it, that would bluter the ball into the back of the net or head it over the board. Stoat up would be what would happen when the game was stopped in the middle of the park. All our vocabulary was to do with Scots. The whole world picture was through the Scots lead. So it was guy strong, and words and expressions that Burns would have used, like Auld Lang Syne, were still used by my mother and father when I was growing up in the 1950s and 60s. So it was very different though at the Skill, because you weren't allowed to speak this language at the Skill except once a year when Burns was celebrated and you had to recite a Burns's poem. And the rest of the time you could be punished and gain licks with the toes, gain corporal punishment for speaking his language. And how bizarre is that? So a fascinating linguistic background where you spoke a lead, but the lead wasn't recognised by a lot of the major institutions that governed your way of life. But there still was a pride in it, therefore that's what that was brought up with. And that gave me the crusading zeal, if you like, eventually, to tell other folk when I was able to study the language and the literature at Edinburgh University. It garred me hae a crusading zeal to tell other folk for the same background what they'd lost out on, what they'd tint, hadn't been educated as, and therefore to write Scots of Mither Tongue and to do programmes about that language to remove the ignorance. So I joined the BBC as a researcher, and what I proposed to them was doing programmes on working class Scottish culture to try and record the language. So I did programmes on all kind of things, like the jute spinners in Dundee, the farm workers in Fife, the soldiers that gathered to the First World War in Deed and Gallipoli, folk that bided in remote areas like the St Kilda that was evacuated in the 1930s. I went to and interviewed their folk. And I did the first series of the Odyssey programme, and that was converted into 2 books: Odyssey, the second collection, and Odyssey, Voices for Scotland's Recent Past. Their 2 was big into ye book called The Complete Odyssey, and later on, my desire to tell folk what they'd missed out on their linguistic history produced this book, Scots of Mither Tongue. That's in addition for 2006 rather than the one for the mid-1980s, but it's been in print all that year. And the other subject that's dear to me is, I just mentioned that the Scots boys taking Fitba to Barcelona and Gothenburg, for example, boys from my own Irvine Valley. Well, the other subject that's dear to me is the Scottish world, is the incredible influence that Scots have had in different areas of the world, including Fitba, because we invented the game of Fitba, and it was our game that we took to South America, to Sao Paulo in Brazil, to Argentina. The founding father of Argentine Fitba, who have just won the World Cup, was a boy called Watson Hutton, who came for that tradition of the Scots professors, Fitba players. And that's what I've tried to do, is try and re-educate folk about what they are.